Live.
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 Okay. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Jason and Matthew show. You can come up with a riff for that, right, Jason?
We certainly have, Matthew.
Needs a little bit of work. It's a little bit rusty right now.
It is. I'm sure we'll get it sorted out one day.
Yeah. So, welcome to the show this morning, guys. This is Matthew Ashdown and Jason Goldsworthy. And we're going to be diving into a bit of a conversation today. The theme is extending. If anybody saw my live stream the other day, we sort of dabbled in this, but I think we're going to dive a little deeper with some of Jason's wisdom and insights. We're under the pulse of what the 13th gene key. If you're not familiar with the gene keys, go to my website, matthewashdown.ca or genekeys.com, and you can start to find out what I'm yakking on about here. But it is related to stars and planets, your birth time, a whole lots of good stuff there. That's something I do consulting with people. But we're under the influence of the pulse of the 13th gene key at this time. And the 13th gene key is all about what I'm yakking on about here. But it is related to stars. Oh boy, there's my echo.
It's okay. All good.
You got me started there?
It's
all about listening. It's all about deep listening to our soul, listening to the inner wisdom. What are we listening to in the world? Who are we listening to? I guess even what kind of music are we listening to? But it's really up. And it's kind of interesting, actually, because this is one that Jason actually has in his Gene Keys chart in quite a prominent position. So he's actually really the go-to guy on this person. I see him somebody who is helping to people everywhere to really listen deeply to the calling of their soul. And you also do that in mediumship, right, Jason?
I certainly do. Teaching people to get in contact with their own soul and listen to their soul's calling, or listen to their soul's inspiration that they're giving. Hello to everyone that's joined us, and Matthew and me are going to be talking about this. Are you listening to your soul? All the rules and laws of others. And it's like, what my mission is, is what Matthew was saying, was it's not only in my gene keys, which means it's something that I was born with, is listening to your own soul's purpose and teaching other people to find that within themselves as well, Matthew.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'm getting, it says live video feed interrupted. Did you?
No, it's all good. It's all good at the moment. So anyway, listen to your own soul's purpose, and and thinking about how you deal with it yourself. When do you really listen to that inspiration from your soul? And you're probably asking, how do you actually listen to that inspiration in your soul? Well, the first thing you need to do is become quiet. And the first thing you need to do is avoid getting distracted. And I think that the best moment in life is that moment when you just wake up. When you wake up and you feel that moment, and you're feeling all fuzzy, and you're in between sleep and you're in between waking. It's the moment of creativity. It's a moment when you wake. It's a moment when you're in contact with that feeling. And I call it the reset point of who you are. You wake up joyful, you wake up happy, you wake up contented. And at that moment, if you're still with yourself and you're quiet with yourself, you can feel like an inner feeling. From the first thing you want to do is, I'm going to get up, I'm going to do it. Instead of going through the list of things that you've got to go through the day. Why not wake up and think, okay, what are my dreams? What am I grateful for? What am I happy for? What really makes me happy? And if you can get in contact with those things, then you're going to be in alignment with what your soul wants to do today. And so jumping into that, enjoying that, and moving into that feeling of, soul, what do you want to create, And a lot of things, I've been speaking to people that aren't living their soul's purpose or not doing the things that they want to do. They'll say, well, why should I do these things, and why should I create a certain workshop? Why should I create a certain thing? Because there's so many others doing it. And I think that if you've got so many other people doing it, why should you do it? And I would say, because people can't wait to hear what you've got to say and what your soul's got to say in this thing. It's like, think about music. Like, everyone's got a soul and everyone's got a certain amount of music in them, and that music can be heard if you share it. And if you share it at the right time, this music, people are going to listen. But you can't say, "Oh, so many music is in the world, so why should I bring out another single?" Or "So much music in the world, so why should I play my song?" No, you should play your song just because that is who you are. That is what your soul's purpose is, to play that sound, that feeling, that inspiration that you have every morning that you wake up. And it's not the first thing, "Oh, I've got to get the kids off to school, I've got to do all this." No, it's that feeling that if you can wait a minute and just feel how you feel when you wake up, you're going to be in alignment with who you are for a minute. And it's only when you get up and start to do the things in your life that you're going to start getting distractions, like having to sort out life, get things done, and all that sort of thing. Um, so yeah, that's basically where we're at the moment. So Matthew, what would you have to add to that, my friend?
Listening 101, eh?
Listening 101.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know me, Jason. I like to kind of work on a sliding scale of things here. So I like to start where the shadow is influencing and and then we sort of, it's like becoming aware of it so we can shift into that transmutation. So it's almost like you're starting connecting to spirit, and that's how I would start the day too.
Yeah.
It's an important thing. And then it's throughout the day. It's like when those things come up is like, am I listening anymore? Because we fall into these patterns where we start listening to our conditioned mind instead, right? Instead of that higher wisdom. And through meditation and stuff like that, we can get guidance on the steps we need to take. And I think a lot of us can relate to those times in our lives when it felt like there was a higher wisdom attempting to come through, and we didn't necessarily listen because sometimes our desires override them, the things that we really want. And I've heard time. One of the things I always bring to any situation is when I'm attempting to listen to others is when they say, "Oh, they'll say something like, 'Oh, Spirit told me to do this,' or 'God told me to do this,' or something like that." And it's like when they check in, they realize actually it was a deep desire of theirs. And there's no judgment against that. We've all got our desires. It's learning to discern what are our desires and what is actually truly a source of higher wisdom, right? Because
Yeah.
when you can start off the day, like you were just saying there, you can
Yeah.
become more connected to it. But if we don't, then it's like, it could be that higher wisdom that's saying, and it could be, when I say higher wisdom too, I think one of the things to recognize is that we're on a planet with other human beings. And sometimes I've come across people who are so connected to spirit that that's all they listen to, right? It's they go the opposite extreme is they just listen to what they think is spirit, where their own filters are playing through that, instead of recognizing that there's divine wisdom coming through Jason right now. There's divine wisdom coming through your dog. There's divine wisdom coming through so many different sources that
Yeah.
we can truly listen to. And sometimes, it's things like if we're looking to improve our health and our well-being, sometimes that inner wisdom, and sometimes it's our own body's wisdom, right? If we listen in deeply, so there's so many different ways of listening. So when we're talking about listen, we're not just talking about hearing something. There's so many different ways we can listen. In mediumship, Jason and I we listen on a very different level. We feel the emotions. Sometimes we hear things in a clairaudient manner. Sometimes we're feeling things. And so it's really going into it in a deep way like that. But a lot of times it's like, there's other ways in which we're doing this in a kind of in a way that can be detrimental to us. And we can chat more about them. But an example I was going to use to just related to not listening to our own body's wisdom is when, we know that there's a certain food that isn't great for us, but we eat it anyway because it's damn tasty, right? That kind of thing. So it's like those are examples in our life of when we're not listening. And then also other examples is like when we're with other people, and it's like we recognize and that there is wisdom to come through each of us, and at the same time, we can be in conversation with somebody, but really it's a one-sided conversation because we're actually not really listening. We're hearing, right? It's going into the actual physical ear, and there's a hearing going on, but we're already ready to say, to respond to that. We've already got a response to that. And that can be one of the earliest indications for us that we're actually not really listening. And, I myself used to be really bad at this, and still have to be mindful of it. I'm sure I get a slap around the ear from my wife every time that I don't do it, right? But it's like that when we're caught in that, and we're not truly listening, we're not being present in the moment. And
Yeah.
so, it's like once we start to own this crap in ourselves, that's when it like. So if you're hearing us talking about connecting into spirit, and it's like, I get what you're saying, but I don't always find it easy. The reason we're able to is because we've learned to some of those other behaviors of ours, some of those other factors. I still catch myself when my desires override my my inner wisdom. Sometimes after the fact, right? Listening, it's about listening to them before they override us. It's about noticing our fears. So a lot of times we'll just run away from our fears because we don't want those fears to have power over our lives. Or we just go out there and do things to conquer those fears. But I've actually learned, and it's something Richard Rudd taught me. He uses the term a fear tracker, right? It's you go in and you check in with your body and yourself about what are the fears that are surfacing. And it doesn't mean you have to go and act on those fears. It's like, oh God, I'm afraid of jumping out of a plane. It doesn't mean you go and jump out of a plane. It means you're willing to listen to what those fears are, and then you can begin to transmute them. So, because with all these lower frequency things we're talking about, it's like, whoa, Matthew, good way to go. Start focusing on all the negative. It's like, no, it's bringing this stuff that's already in there to the light so that we can transmute it, so that we can become clearer throughout the day. And when you start the day, like Jason was talking about, you can become more receptive to that, right? Because you can begin to see those patterns in yourself. You can begin to hear them. Wouldn't you agree, Jason?
Absolutely. Yeah, those patterns that because when you've got that reset point, that point when you wake up that I was talking about, lovely bit that I was listening when I was listening to Matthew, but when you wake up, that first moment, just between waking and before your first thought comes in, that feeling, that connection to your soul is happy, it's content, it knows where it is, it's back at base one. And when you start your day, if you can hold on to that feeling of who you are, then you're holding on to the essence of who you are and what you've come to do in this day, right? And becoming present is like taking note of how you feel then and holding on to that through the whole day. Now, when we can contact our soul's purpose and what we're actually trying to share in this world, it is a feeling. And it does bring you forward into what you want to do, but there's a lot of distractions in this world. Like, we're taught to be distracted. I mean, we've got mobile devices, we've got phones, we've got all this thing, we've got Facebook, we've got Twitter, all that sort of thing, which we've discussed before. But it distracts you from your inner purpose. And if you can stay focused on who you are and what you've got to share in this world, then you're going to be focused. You're going to be sharing a lot more with people in this world than if you're distracted. And so holding on to that, the first hour of the day, I'm not touching my phone. I'm meditating. I'm doing that because meditation also brings you into that soul's purpose, brings you into who you are. And then it's a case of believing in yourself. Now, if I say I spoke to someone today and they said, "Oh, I'm planning on I might do this, but I don't know if I believe in myself if I can do it because there's so many coaches out there. So why should I do a coaching thing?" And I said, well, like I said before, if you're going to be, you've been born with this song in your soul, and if you're going to play this song out and you're going to bring it out into this world, you've got to believe in it. You've got to believe in the lyrics that you've got to say. You've got to believe in the sound that you've got to bring, and that's why you're here on the planet, to bring that into this manifestation. And it can't be manifested if you don't believe in what you've got to bring. And you might say, well, there's 100,000 coaches out there. Why should I make a difference? No, well, actually, you'll make a difference because You are the one that's singing a different song to all the rest. And, you know, think about, you know, all these songs that have been brought out, all these singles. Why should you make a new single? Because it hasn't been made yet. And that's the thing. That's the thing, that what happens is we tend to like follow the rules of life. The rules of life, you know, like we get things imprinted into ourselves and mindsets imprinted into ourselves when we're very young, that if you don't perform to a certain standard, then you're not going to be good enough. Or if you were born in a certain family, you will not be that good, because you can't grow that good. And the thing to remember is like, that's not the way it works. Because if you were born in a certain situation, a family, and you're growing and you're evolving in your life and you're evolving through your lifetime, then you're becoming, and becoming feels a lot better than you know, looking at your outside world and say, well, you know, why should I make a difference? How can I trust my feelings? How can I trust myself? You were born with your feelings. The first thing you had when you were born were these feelings, and that's what you gave to this world. The feelings and the eminence of beingness. And when you're in your beingness, that's when you're present. And when you're present, that's when you're sharing. And you know, you being present and just listening to Matthew, then being present and listening to Matthew and thinking, yeah, that's really good. That's like sharing that moment with someone and being there and listen to them, not thinking, oh, what am I going to say next, or not thinking about, oh, I've got to do all these 10 different things in a minute. It's actually spending time with people, and like appreciating them for every little bit of person for who they are. And there's a lot of people out there that say, no, I haven't got the time. They probably won't even have the time to watch this video, because they'll be like, you know, oh yeah, you know, half an hour's a bit long, so I don't know if I can manage it. But when do you ever make time for yourself? When do you ever take time to listen deeply to your own soul? When do you plan that self-love time in, you know? Because self-love time is that time when you say, hey, I wanna meditate. Hey, I want to go within inside and find out, you know, who I am, what's my soul's purpose. I want to spend time developing it. And I may want to take a retreat, maybe a retreat in, you know, wherever, in the Swanhof, or in Arthur Findlay, or in the Himalayas, like Yokolanda did, you know, whatever, you know. But it's a case of, you can also go within. And when you go within and you find that inner calling, that inner song of who you are, that feeling deep within yourself, that light of who you are, and you can believe in yourself just that little bit, then you're really listening to that soul's knowledge. Then you're really listening to the purity of who you are, and that's the radiance that you can bring out into this world. And all you need to do is switch it on and emanate it and bring it out in whatever way you can. And don't let the rules of this world, and don't let the rules of what you've been taught when you were younger, like, you know, I was always told as a child, oh, you're a bad learner, you're not a very good learner. So because you're not a very good learner, I was dyslexic. I was actually dyslexic before dyslexia actually came out. It wasn't in fashion back then. But they said I was a bad learner and I didn't want to learn. Well, I wanted to learn, I just didn't understand it. And now I'm training myself to overcome the fears that were built up in schooling way back then. And it's only the belief that you can develop and evolve that brings you forward within this lifetime. When I was 16, my stepfather said to me, he said, "You'll never amount to anything in this lifetime." And for a couple of years, I believed him. I thought, well, that's it then. So I can just believe what he says, because he's supposed to be the man that I respect, and that was it. But really, when I get back to my inner self, I had to let go of that mindset and step into the mindset of, hey, I am a work in progress. Just like everyone on this planet is a work in progress. And if you can let go of those negative thought patterns which hold you back, then you're going to get more into your soul's alignment for who you are, and you will move forward in your lifetime, and you will create great things. and it's all a question of believing in you. So for the people that have just joined us, hi, and I'm going to pass it on to Matthew. So Matthew, here you go.
Hi. Hi, everybody. Hi, David.
Hi, David.
Chris. Hi, Jan. Lindsay. Hi, everybody. Those are the names that are popping up. If there's more there, I apologize for not saying hi, but hi. Jason, I love what what I was just feeling as you were sharing that too, because I'm stressing the point of feeling there, because I was listening with my ears, but I was also really feeling the energy coming through as you were sharing. And something that has been said to us is like, do you guys have this all prepped beforehand?
Nothing.
Well, no, nothing. Because, and what Jason is doing there, and I'm going to share why, is really, he's truly listening in that moment and just allowing it to come through, because that's a great example of it, right? Inspired speakers that get up, when they're inspired like that, they touch you, you feel it, and they tap into stuff in a way that they probably don't even realize. And what you were talking about, Jason, was something that I'd actually been processing at a deeper level yesterday.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. But you didn't know that. You're talking about the uniqueness of the soul, and it's like we can't become an imitation and things like that. We're unique individuals, and because one of the things that have stopped me being creative, I had an experience where I was I had an experience with a book publishing company that really I allowed it to take me back a step, quite a few steps in my life actually, and it all had all to do with that. And it was just yesterday I was talking to somebody, and she was saying something quite similar around the uniqueness of our souls and everything, and recognizing that the reason I couldn't hear it with my creative work is like, as an individual, I believe I'm very unique, but with my creative work, I always felt like a copycat, an imitation. And so it was really interesting hearing you talk about it. Like, see, when you're listening, even if you don't know what you're saying, you're listening and you're touching other people in ways that you don't even really realize. And that is because as we're listening to each other sharing, I mean, I think it's great, because I also do webinars by myself, and it's a very different experience than when I do it with Jason. It's like, it's a lot more relaxing when I'm doing it with Jason, because I can listen to him instead of always just being on the go and managing all these things myself, or managing the participants and everything. So it's really interesting, and it really gives us that opportunity to listen. And and there's a lot of people on here who are mediums, and so they're already practicing this kind of deep listening. And the gift of the 13th gene key, if we go back to that, is this gift of discernment. And in the shadow side of that, it becomes a form of pessimism, because we end up when you're not listening, we tend to repeat the same mistakes. We stay in relationships that have outdone they've outlived their wisdom, so to speak. We keep repeating patterns related to our health and fitness, our finances. We keep repeating those patterns because we're not truly listening. We're not listening deep to our own wisdom. Like Jason was talking about, the noise and the din of other people's opinions is overwhelming our consciousness, so that we can't even hear. So it does take the discipline to be able to learn to go in there and listen. But it is amazing when we do so, because have you ever found that as you're saying something, you are tapped in? That people have said things like, "Oh, that's just what I needed to hear right now," or "How did you, like, when it comes to the mediumship, how could you possibly know that kind of information?" And so it's not about like touting how great we are or anything like that, but it's about showing that we're willing to listen to people, that we're willing to listen deeply. And because, like Jason, you were talking about your learning to dive back into sources of information, that because you had the beliefs about yourself when you were younger and how they carry through.
Yeah.
And it really is that. It's a case of like, when that higher wisdom comes in, either through our own meditations and our own experiences and our own guides, or through the wisdom of people in our world around us, is like we have that opportunity to really absorb this, and going out of that, there comes this kind of like optimism for life too, because it's not it's not a fake kind of optimism or what I call hopium, which is just based on a belief, right? Hopium is like, oh, the world's getting better, the financial system is going to collapse, and I'm going to sit around waiting for that to happen, right?
Yeah.
That's the hopium. The optimism is this: we process those inner feelings, we truly tap in, and it's like we can listen and pick up on so many different things in the world that we couldn't necessarily pick up on if we're just listening to our belief conditioning and patterns. And there's so much of that, I'm sure you'd agree, Jason, has to do with the environment. And I actually felt just inspired to share it. We haven't shared this on here yet, so it's not public knowledge, but Jason and I both lived in the same town at one point in life. Maybe not at the same time. I think there was a slight crossover in England. So here we are, however many thousands of miles away right now, having met through my wife, who's your mutual friend, and 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 we actually at this little town in England called Scunthorpe, and
Yeah.
it's as nice as it does sound. Hopefully, there's nobody from Scunthorpe listening to this
Yeah.
right now. But so it's like I used to go back there, and I used when I go and visit, and it just bring up this sadness for me because I could just feel and sense so much poverty. It used to be a steel town, and so during the industrial time, it was really a prolific town and generated a lot of income for a lot of people. But now the steel works are functioning at a fraction of their thing. And so it's like both of us we could either listen to the stories that we heard growing up in this environment, or we could take the time and practice. I mean, Jason, you sit in the power all the time. I've done
Yeah.
10 years of Kriya yoga meditation practice. It's like this isn't some people it can just happen in a flash. I'm a bit of a slow learner, right? So that's why it's taken me a bit longer to diffuse there. But when we get to that place, it's like that's how we can really listen to that higher wisdom. We can listen to the voice of our higher self instead of the self that wants to cling on to reality as we think it is. We can listen to the higher self that truly understands reality. And I don't mean the physical reality, I mean the reality of existence. But it can help us to navigate the realness that is around us. So I think you'd agree that environment has a lot to do with it, right, Jason?
Yeah, you're born environment. We're all born into, like, I was born into quite a poor family, and we had also a rich half of the family, and they were born into a different environment.
Oh yeah.
Where, yeah, they were born into a richer part of the environment, family, and we were born into a poor family. But it's not. You see, what I had to work out in my lifetime, and that's what I did work out, was you're not you can grow and evolve from where you come from. It's not a question from, oh, I was born into this, so I will always be this.
Yeah.
A lot of people out there might have been said, well, I was put into lower school, which means I was never going to be a master in this. But really, people can grow into possibilities and believing in this possibilities. And I do it in a lot of workshops, transformational courses that I've done in Canada, which is like you can believe that you started somewhere, and it doesn't matter where you started, but you can grow into something much better and much more. And the only biggest shift you have is that shift in your spirituality, that shift in yourself, that shift in your soul, that shift in believing in yourself. And in shifting that, you can release the environmental beginnings and belief system that you used to have. Because when I was in school, like we mentioned earlier, I had these belief systems because they were enforced in me by teachers, where they said, oh, he's a difficult learner, all that sort of thing. But if you can shift that into, well, I'm a work in progress. And everyone is a work in progress. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what you're busy with. If you're a medium trying to develop, and you're out there thinking, well, there's so many mediums out there. Yeah, but you might be the one that makes a difference. You might be the one that saves someone's life. And like the coaches out there that are thinking, well, I'm a coach and I've done all this, but there's so many thousand more coaches. You might be the one that actually changes somebody's life. And and for people that out there that got normal jobs, you might be the colleague that says the right words at the right time in your inspiration that helps someone make the right choices and changes their life. And that's how much we can impact each other on a daily basis if we're in alignment with that, sole purpose of who we are. And I, going to Canada and meeting Matthew, it was like two people, and I said, "Where do you come from?" He said, "Scunthorpe," and I said, "Yeah, I come from Scunthorpe." He said, "Really?" Because that was an old steel place, and a bit, a lot of people don't say they come from there because
To
it's
ghost
quite,
town.
it's not something that, but it's not where you've come from. It's not the neighborhood that you've come from. It's not the origin that where you've come from that defines who you are. It's that inner spark of divinity that you were born with, and it's the inner spark of divinity that will definitely come out into this world and definitely make a difference and an impact in this lifetime. And all you got to do is shift into that belief in yourself. I think the main thing, I was brought up a Catholic, and my grandmother said to me, she said, "Oh, you got to believe in God, and you got to believe in this, and you got to believe in the Catholic Church," and it was just too confusing for me. But I did, I tried, but there was something missing to this puzzle, and the puzzle that I was thinking, well, hold on a minute, there's that spark of divinity within inside of yourself, and I found it a lot easier in my teenage years to shift into believing in that possibility and shift into improving that possibility within inside oneself and bring it into this world and going forward. And it's only when you can keep in contact with that and with all this stuff that's like distracting us within this lifetime, like, let's put it, information overload that goes on with the smartphones and everything and all that sort of thing. It distracts you from that inner purpose. And it's only in the moments of silence that you can hold on to that, and then you will start getting inspiration to write. I mean, there must be loads of people out there saying, "Oh, I really want to have the inspiration to write a book, but I haven't got enough time." And I'll probably say to them, "Well, how many times have you been silent with that? And how many times have you really given yourself the time to listen? And how many times have you given yourself the self-love and appreciation that you deserve to develop that?" And that's the thing that we have. We've got a few comments here. Madeline says, my basics are good. Bond with mum was good. Marriage with ex completely derailed me. On my way to getting back on track. Now, Madeline, you know what I mean? We all go through life experiences, and I can feel where you're coming from, and it's like it doesn't define us. It doesn't define who you are. It was a part of your journey, and what the journey brought you through a little bit of a rocky path, but the main thing is you survived, and the other thing is you learnt a lesson, and and that's the thing. That's the main thing to remember is like when you've been through that pathway and you've known where it is. I've noticed in my life, I've had difficult experiences in my life as well, where when you feel like you're derailed, there's nowhere else to go because you've fallen and there's nowhere else to go. And that's the one thing that gave me confidence, was the fact of, you can't fall any lower than this, and I'm still alive. All right, so the only way is up. And so that was like a eureka moment for me, but it's a process of climbing, a process of working and understanding that the soul, within you. I always had this strong feeling inside myself, and I couldn't explain it to anyone because they thought I was mad when I was in my teenagers. I always had this strong feeling of the soul. I said, you can't kill the soul because it continues. It reincarnates. It keeps coming back. So whatever happens, whatever experience you go through, you're always going to survive. You're always going to overcome, and you're always going to evolve. And that's the feeling that came to me when I was in my lowest points in my life, and I realized, hey, this is a process. And the thing is to let go of those things that you feel, those things that you might be holding you back, those preconceived ideas. So I might have created this for myself, so I must deserve it. And I was like, I went through that, but really, no. This was here. This happened in your life. And now it's time to move on, and now it's time to let go, and now it's time to move yourself into the next vibration of who you are. And the knowledge and wisdom that you've learned along the way is great, because you may be the next person that can help someone else with the same sort of things in this lifetime. And I have this very strong feeling towards bringing up children and how they should be taught in school. And my son came back from school. He was crying because I don't understand how this all works. I don't understand school. I don't understand mathematics. I don't understand this. And he was, it's all so difficult. And and the teachers were just teaching him the normal way that they normally teach. And I just turned around and I said to him, I said, look, how can we make this more interesting for you? I said, what if I can make it more interesting for you, more happy for you? We'll turn it into a bit of a game, and instead of doing 2 hours of doing your homework, we'll get it done in 15 minutes. And he said, I'm up for that. So I took him on a journey, made it interesting, and all I did was show him how we can make it playful. And showing how to make it playful, helping him believe in himself just that little bit more. Now he's been coming back for the last week and he's been doing it in 10 minutes and he's done his homework and he's happy and he's proud of himself again. And the only thing that changed was the belief in himself. And that's what everyone has had. Just suddenly you get something put in your mind, you say, that might be just keeping you out of alignment of who you are and out of alignment of what you could bring to this world, and all you need to do is shift into that belief of who you are. Matthew.
Yeah. I love why you were talking about that and sharing that with your son there, because that is like I just suddenly felt it's like whoa, because you're sharing your environment you grew up in and here, and it's like the vibrational shifts, the frequency shifts that you've gone through in order to reach that. It's quite incredible, right? Because and that's what I think we have to do is we really have to appreciate ourselves along the way, because so often we wait for appreciation and recognition from others, but if we appreciate and recognize for ourselves, we feel less of that need to prove our worth and be validated by others. So
Exactly.
Your son's getting kind of like support early on is huge. And Sarah Sachs mentions here too. She says, sounds like Pittsburgh, but it reinvented itself after the mills closed. And it's like, it's exactly that. It's like sometimes those deep, dark nights of the soul take us as individuals, but also us as communities into places. And so it's like, we were talking about Skunkbark and that place we've come from. And one of the things I feel called to bring to mention before we finish up today is that at the highest frequency of this 13th gene key that we've been talking about, the Siddhi, the highest frequency, if you reach that stage where you're the enlightened master, which many of us, we're moving towards it, but I have glimpses of it possibly from time to time, but very rarely, but is the gift of empathy. And empathy at this level of the Siddhi isn't always the way empathy is understood. In fact, a lot of times people, we can mistake sympathy for empathy. And so sympathy is like, I can feel this pain with you. So, I'd go and visit my hometown and I could feel this pain with people. And so I was taking on the pain too, right? Whereas empathy, when we have this ability to listen, at the highest frequency, it's almost like we become this one mind. So instead of us feeling with somebody, it's like literally we become somebody, right? We can enter into somebody else. And Yogananda would talk about this too, is that as at his level of mastery, he was able to feel it was like he could go inside and he would reflect back to people what they were thinking and what they were feeling deep inside. And I've seen that in mediums too. I've seen that in so many others. And so that true empathy. So it's like when I can go back to Skundlop, when I can go visit, and when I've done my own emotional healing around that, suddenly that doesn't hurt me as much. I can go there, and now I can visit there, and I can see more of the beauty within it. And it's like I've come to appreciate it so more. And I can say that about England in general. At 21, I raced to get out of there. I was like, there's so much going on here, I don't like it. And then I realized, oh shoot, wherever I go, there I am, right?
Yeah.
And so it was only until I started listening to those people that were sharing that wisdom that things began to shift. And so, it's like like you were saying, when we can become present there. I feel like there's absolutely in our individual evolution, there's the times where we move away from the toxic situations so that we can gather ourselves and heal ourselves. And you know, it's like all those jokes around Christmas time where you like, you know, if you want to know if you're truly enlightened, go spend a weekend with your family, right?
Yeah.
And thankfully for me, I had such a I loved family, right? I loved the family that I grew up in, and we got along most of the time. And of course, there's always conditioning from within those, but it's like those experiences do allow us to really be feel deeply within other people, and that listening comes through, so that we can have that higher form of empathy that comes through this deep. So I'm looking forward to more of that in my own experience. But right now, it is that like that how many times have we said it today? Listening, deep listening, true,
Yeah.
true, the true essence of listening, and it can really transform. And I'm sure what Sarah's saying, that's what the people of Pittsburgh did. They listened into some higher wisdom, and they said, "It doesn't have to be like this anymore. We can turn this around." So,
Yeah. I've got just a comment. It's in Dutch, which you probably don't understand, Matthew, but I could
oh
tell
wait,
you
no,
in
I'm gonna
Dutch.
give it a go. Hoogte
No,
is
that's
nou hoogste. No.
no, that's it. But Monique mentions it doesn't matter how far. She said even when you fall, and it can be quite deep, and you think, "Oh, how am I going to get out of this?" And it can feel like, oh, you know, it's not a nice thing that happens, but you do learn so much from it, and you do get
Absolutely.
stronger from it. And when you look back, you can think to yourself, "Well, how much have I actually learned from that experience?" I like what Sarah wrote her second part, because it talks about that as well, where she came around back to Pittsburgh and reinvented herself as a medium in her mediumship. And
Mm.
so it's like coming from one part, going back to the past and saying, hey, what did I learn from that? How did I move on from that? And moving into the next vibration of who you are. And I think that's a beautiful thing, is like, you know, um, a lot of things that we've learned, like I've had a certain upbringing, may not have been the ideal upbringing, but it's taught me a lot about how I bring up my children in a totally different way. And I know many parents out there that will probably be like, you know, they might have had a very strict upbringing that was quite different. And I think the thing is, you know, parents don't get this little leaflet like, this is your child and this is your instructions of how to, you know. So what they do is they try to do their best. And you know, what happens is, if you've had a strict upbringing and it's been difficult and you've gone through hardships, you tend to contemplate that and move past that and go through forgiveness and get to that part in yourself. Well, hey, what is my purpose then? And my purpose is to bring children up in a different way. Any difficult situation that you've had in your life, it may not have been good for you at the time, but it may be to turn that around and say, well, what is my purpose then? Oh, my purpose is to do that in a different way, to bring about change. I always say in this lifetime, you know, don't be the problem, be the remedy. You know, be the remedy, be the cure, be the medicine. You know, and
I
that's
think
the
we
thing.
acknowledge when we're being part of the problem.
Yeah, you know,
Until we realize
that's
we're part of the
That's
problem.
right, you know. I mean, and it's taking back and taking an overview of a situation and saying, well, you know, am I a part of this problem? No. Okay, reflect on that. Okay, what does it mean to me? It means this. What can I do with the information? Can I use it? Yes. Then if you can, change. Can I use it? No. Then continue. Then continue being that perfect version of yourself today. So I think we're a little bit over time, Matthew, but are you listening to your
Oh
soul,
boy.
or are you listening to the rules of others and things around you? And I'd say, hey guys, believe in yourself. Believe in yourself, believe in who you are, keep going and make the difference and sing your own soul's song. Um, Matthew, you want to add anything to that?
Absolutely, yeah. It's like listening, truly listening makes a huge difference. And I'm just being reminded of somebody that I knew 10 years ago when I was more of like I was so in need of trying to, that's actually 15 years ago now. I was so in need of proving my worth to people that I just spent so much freaking time talking. I still talk a lot. I like to think I'm a bit better at a listener now. but this guy would show just genuine interest in me. He never said a damn thing about himself. And I was like, shoot, I got a lot to learn from you. And so I like to feel like that was, you know, who are the good listeners in your life? And in the different ways in which they listen to, there's listening at the physical level and the physical body. There's listening at the medical. There's a slip. What was I listening to there? Do we listen to the medical? That's a good. Listening to the mental, right? And am I talking a whole bunch of shoulds, or am I actually listening to my own divine wisdom? And that's what discernment is, right? It's discerning between, is this divine wisdom that I'm sharing, or is this just purely my own opinion? And we always have to be discerning. And then at the emotional listening and at the soul level. So like when we're talking listening from the very beginning, it was stressing this is listening at many different levels and even beyond the planes that we've been talking about. So it's an art form, and it's a practice, but absolutely we can listen to that higher wisdom over the din of the rules, regulation, laws, opinions, and conditioning. That's all I got to say on that one, bud.
Wonderful. And so I just want to thank Matthew for his time. I'm pleased, you know.
Thank you.
And it was a great talk. Thank you everyone for turning up. And if this inspired you, if this talk inspired you, you know, share it with others. Share it to whoever you want, and anything that we have, share it. And there is a YouTube channel coming soon. Matthew's working on that with me together, just so that if there's any other talks that you've missed and you'd like to watch it, it's going to be on there. That's something coming up soon.
One of those. 24/7.
What are you going to say?
I said you can listen to us 24/7 if you want to.
24/7, you know. I mean, some people say sometimes my voice can bring them to sleep. That's a good thing, you know, if you want to get some sleep. But anyway, I was going to say...
Nicole said that to me too.
Yeah, well, if you want to get in contact with Matthew about Gene Keys, he's the man to see. If you want to get in contact with me about any sort of coaching or spiritual stuff, you know, our things are up here. It was lovely having you guys, and I just want to say thank you for coming and share the inspiration and be the inspiration you'd like to see in this world.
Hey, you nicked that from somebody else.
Well, I think that's probably Nelson Mandela.